24th. My name is Kafense Chike, Baba Kafense Chike. You're viewing the Get Up Stand Up show with Minister Malik Shabazz. This is the Black in the Day in the 313 segment, an Afrocentric perspective of African and African American phenomena in history as it occurs in Detroit and wherever it may occur. Of course, it's an honor to be here, and I'm going to try to connect us back to where we left off last week. Of course, I can never get all of the information in. We are broadcasting. You're viewing us either at TV33WHPR.com, broadcasting live from Highland Park, Michigan. You can view us on the live streaming on the internet, www.tv33WHPR.com. You can also view us via the Android app, which is available at the Google Play Store, or on the Apple app, which is available at the Apple Store. You can also view us via the Google TV, the Roku box, and Comcast Channel 91. Tune in, turn on, view us, listen, call in, share your perspectives, your ideas, your concepts, any feedback that you have on anything that I may be talking about tonight. If you can lend some support to what we're doing, or maybe have a perspective that will enhance what we're doing here, we welcome you to call in. Of course, we also are broadcasting live at Facebook Live at Kafense Chike on Facebook. We urge you to tune in either way. And of course, I can't readily respond to the Facebook live comments. I see you, Minister Malik Shabazz. Thank you for tuning in. You can call us, however, at 313-868-0351, 868-4336, 868-0342, and all of those are at the 313 area code, 868-0351, 868-4336, 868-0342. And as we begin our show, as we do each and every week that we're here for Get Up, Stand Up, Black in the Day in the 313 segment, we like to just take a moment of silence to honor, venerate, and commemorate the spirit of those who have gone before us, to make this side better for those of us that are still on the physical plane doing no work. So we take a moment of silence for those African ancestors. For those that have gone before us, gave their lives, who died in some cases and lived their lives so that life would be better for black people. It's very important that we know, we honor them, we say thank you. We say Madasi Pa Asante Sana. Thank you very much. It's very important that we know and understand that there is a river. This was a book by Vincent Harding. There's a consistent forward-flowing river of African people which emerge in each generation, and in every generation there is an emergence, an entity of that particular generation that realizes its call, which is to stand up and work in the struggle, to work in the war against oppression, white supremacy, and the many forces that operate against us in the universe. I have a couple of announcements that I like to make. I like to reiterate, and I would urge people, if you have an event or something of relevance that may be relevant to the show, to Detroit history, to activism in Detroit, or anything pertaining to what we're doing here in the Get Up Stand Up show, particularly the Black in the Day in the 313 segment, you can email me at chikekefense, CHIKEKEFENTSE @gmail.com. And please, if you email me, even as late as early the Monday, the day of the show, please put in the subject caption Black in the Day in the 313, and your whatever your proposed announcement or event is will be reviewed, and we will consider including it in our announcements for the show. There's one engagement session remaining of the series of engagement sessions that's hosted by the Detroit Black Community and Food Security Network and the organization Just Food Detroit. They're inviting you to come out and learn about the Future Detroit People's Food Co-op and Just Food Detroit and support their efforts. And as I've said in previous shows, they are in the process of creating an independent, cooperatively owned food co-op that will be housed in Detroit, built from the ground up, and is getting much community support. This is reminiscent in my mind of and I know there's been several efforts. Of course, I don't think we have any black supermarkets in Detroit now, but back in the day, I think in the late 60s, early 70s, and I know there's some people in the audience that remember this, there was Our Supermarket, which was on Joy Road, just west of Dexter Avenue on the south side of the street, if my memory serves me correctly. If anybody remembers that, call in and share a little information with us about your memories of the Our Supermarket. Anyhow, the Detroit Black Community and Food Security Network and Just Food are hosting the final in this series of engagement sessions, which will be May the 20th at the Avalon Village on Highland Park. And Avalon Village is basically, I don't have the exact address, but it's housed in the first block of Avalon and Highland Park between 2nd and Woodward. And I think the first house on the north side of the street closest to Woodward is where you can get more information about this contact session. And as we do in all our sessions, we're going to draw from the work of Ken Coleman, his book, On This Day, African American Life in Detroit. And this is kind of the central core of our show, is to look at various historical events that have occurred or that are occurring in the forthcoming week. I'd like to give a shout out to Baba Abdul Akil. Thank you for watching as well. We appreciate you as well. And there's some others I see that are watching whose names have not appeared on the screen yet. Thank you very much. Before we go into the Black in the Day, a couple of other announcements. I'd like to announce the transition of Baba Kamamu Damani Abubakari. And I don't have a lot of his biographical information. I do know that he was the mate, husband, and partner of Sister Mama Deja Nava. I think, hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly, who was a teacher for many, many years at the Malcolm X Academy. And I became aware of his transition today, and I'm not sure. I think it was sometime within the past week that he made his transition. Visitations for Baba Kamamu Damani Abubakari will be held at the O.H. Pai III Funeral Home, and the date for the first phase of the memorial services and funeral will be Friday, April 28th. They will have a viewing between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. There will be a service. Again, all the services are at Pai Funeral Home, which is at 17600 Plymouth Road, Detroit, Michigan 48227. Family hour will be Saturday, April 29th, June the 17th at 9:30 a.m. The family hour will be immediately followed by funeral services and memorial service. And I was made aware of the fact, or to advise others, that this is not a funeral in a typical sense. And many of us that are in the African community, the African village aspect of Detroit, know when we come together to funeralize, memorialize, or venerate the energy and spirit of those who have lived amongst us as they prepare for another phase of life amongst the ancestors, is oftentimes much more of a celebration. In fact, their positiveness is a celebration of life. There will be drumming, there will be libations, maybe even testimonies. But this brother has a long history of having served the African community in Detroit. I have understanding that he worked, I'm not sure if he was a psychologist, but I know he worked collaboratively with a very close friend of mine and a brother who I would see as a mentor, Baba Ambaye, also known as Dr. Ramsey, who was a psychologist and very much committed to helping to heal the wounds of oppression. So I also know that the brother's wife, who was also a committed African-centered teacher, and they were very loyal to the African-American community, and they were also married for for 45 plus years. So for those of you that remember Baba Kamamu Damani Abubakari, if you want to call in and maybe share some memories, we urge you to do that, but we also urge you to come out to the family hour, which will be at Pye Funeral Home on Plymouth and Southfield. The family hour is April the 29th at 9:30 a.m. this Saturday, and the funeral services and celebration of life will follow at 10 a.m. the same date, April the 29th. Moving on to, well, I'd like to also announce another death, so I'm going to kind of go out of the order of my notes here. Another very powerful brother in Ghana, amongst the Akan people. When a chief makes his transition, they say a great tree has fallen. And this is only metaphoric, for we know when those who live amongst us make their transition, they become ancestors, and indeed they actually move on to serve their family and their communities in a much greater capacity. Last week, or this past week on April the 18th, Michael Hamlin, honorable, committed brother, who was a social worker, a college professor, and community activist, Mike Hamlin, made his transition at 81 years of age. Mike Hamlin was a leader in the civil rights movement and a labor organizer. He was a co-founder of the Inner City Voice in the 1960s and a founding member of the Dodge Revolutionary Union movement, which was more affectionately known as DRUM. He also was a member of the League of Revolutionary Black Workers and the Black Workers Congress. Mike was the son of Mississippi sharecroppers, a Korean War veteran, University of Michigan student, and truck driver for the Detroit News. He was a friend and resource for black workers in the unions and factories of Detroit from the early 1960s through the first decade of the 21st century. Mike Hamlin has worked as a clinical social worker, a crisis manager, an employee assistant professional with employees in the Big Three auto industry and over 350 other businesses throughout the state of Michigan. And what they didn't include here is that Mike Hamlin was also on the faculty of the African American Studies Department at Wayne State University. So I had many opportunities to encounter him, but we never had a lot of conversations or real interactions, but I did know of much of the work that he had done in the past, and I actually regret that I didn't spend more time getting to know him, but he had a major following of students there as well. He's helped thousands of workers and their families, as well as managed some of the major industrial crises in our communities. Over the last 16 years, Mike was affiliated with Wayne State. There goes the answer to my question. He worked at Wayne State for over 16 years, teaching in the Labor Studies Center and the Black Studies Department. And if anybody is not clear, Black Studies is a generic term for African American studies. He has been a frequent lecturer and trainer on such topics as violence in the workplace, managing diversity in the workplace, and the labor movement. He has a history of being one of the most effective therapists for drug addicts in the Detroit area. And we know that that's well needed in the Detroit area, pretty much all African American communities, of course, as we try to cope with the stresses and the various aspects and wounds that we have incurred as a result of dealing with oppression in this society. Mike Hamlin's body will lie in state, and this is really past. This was announced earlier in the week. Mike's body laid in state at the Cole Funeral Home this past Sunday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I'm sorry I couldn't get the announcement out before now. But there will be a funeral service, a memorial service, which will be announced at a later date. And as soon as I get the information, I will make it available to others. As soon as I get the information, this information was posted to me via email. Also, of relevance to Brother Mike Hamlin. It was a very nice talk last Saturday, April the 15th, a panel discussion on Uhuru, which was the Black Youth Activist Organizations, and three of the co-founders were there. John Williams, Charles Simmons, and Luke Tripp. And this organization was very active, I think, in the late 50s and early 60s in the Detroit community. They had some involvement in the Cynthia Scott case, which I think may have occurred in 1962. I'm speculating on the dates, but I am going to come back and do a show on Go. Uhuru worked very closely with Go. I was in a conversation with Charles Simmons, one of the members, and he said they were pretty much kind of like the youth aspect of the Go organization. Of course, the key players in Go was Mario Bedelli, Gaidio Bedelli, Grace Boggs, and Dr. Clay, Jeramogi Abebe Ajiman. They had a very good talk. They talked about the founding of Uhuru, and I'm going to work to have those individuals, the three that I mentioned, Luke Tripp, Dr. Simmons, and John Williams on the show, either separately or all at the same time, to talk about the significance of Uhuru. And I'm curious because this very activist organization in the early 60s, even before we get the shift from civil rights to black power, and in some of the literature I read, they were pretty much on par with some of the type of things that SNCC was doing, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. But where are the young people at today? Historically, it has been young people that have been the vanguard in every phase of the revolution. Young people, where are you? And I'm not saying that you're out. Again, you're watching Black in the Day in the 313. The Get Up Stand Up Show with Minister Malik Shabazz. My name is Baba Kafense. You can reach us at 313-868-0351, 868-4336, 868-0342. You know, we're live streaming also at www.tv33.com. We urge you to call in, lend your support. Going back to Ken Coleman's book, on this day, African American Life in Detroit. On April 24th, 1973, U.S. United States District Court Judge Damon Keith ordered a settlement in a lawsuit filed by someone in the name of Stamp. This was the case of Stamp versus Detroit Edison. And for those of you that may not know, that are kind of young, Detroit Edison is now known as DTE. Anyhow, in this case, Judge Keith ordered DTE or Edison to pay $4 million in punitive damages to their African American workers in the case Stamp versus Detroit Edison. He asserted in his ruling that African American workers at DTE had been victims of deliberate and invidious racial discrimination by the company. If there's any of you out there listening that may remember this lawsuit or may be beneficiaries, people that got some of that money, call in and tell us, give us some of the inside scoop about that lawsuit. I want to back up and just give a couple of shout outs to several friend and family members who have birthdays this week coming up. My sister Laura, April 26th, my brother Lawrence Gooden, April 29th, cousin Candy Gooden, April 29th, Sheila Gooden, April 29th, Curtis Sloan, who's deceased now, Roderick Sloan. To all the Tauruses, I just want to say happy birthday as we move towards the end of April, and there's many, many more. I also like to mention a very close friend, Tobias Tribble, whose birthday would have been April the 21st. April 27th, going back to On This Day with Ken Coleman, 1940. Dr. Arthur M. Carter III was born in Detroit, Michigan. Dr. Carter was elected to the Wayne County Board of Commissioners in 1974 and later served as the chairman of that commission. Dr. Carter also served as a deputy superintendent of Detroit Public Schools in 1989. He was very instrumental in the development of the implementation of African-centered education in Detroit Public Schools. Dr. Carter made his transition on February the 23rd in 2013. Dr. Carter was the one that was instrumental in bringing about the African American Heritage Cultural Center. I hope I got the name correct. I'm sure there's somebody in the audience that can help me out with that. I see you, Bradley. Rodney, thank you for checking us out. We appreciate the support. I think the African American Heritage Cultural Center was first premiered in either 89 or 90 at the State Fair Community Auditorium, and it was an exhibit that had it had combined robotics and history, science. Students in the Detroit Public Schools, under the direction of Adam Hodier, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, they had students engaged in robotics, carpentry, and a variety of other skilled trades to develop a display that had the likes of Mansa Musa, Queen Nzinga, scenery from ancient Mali, Ghana, and Songhai. These lifelike robots that talked to you and told the story of the golden age of West Africa. And when this exhibit initially was supposed to be showed at the State Fairgrounds over the weekend, I forget the exact date, I've actually talked about it on the show before, but this is just a reflection of the work, some of the work that Dr. Carter had done. Permanent part of Detroit Public Schools, because this was an aspect of Detroit Public Schools' African-centered curriculum. Out of that came a permanent housing place, which was near the old Redford Library. They built a whole center with architecture based on Egyptian Kemetic architecture, where they housed this exhibit. It was there for a few years, and of course, by the time we get the likes of Ken Burnley and Rob Roy, emergency managers and things like that, one of the first things to go was the African-centered education. So it went by the wayside, but that was just some of the work that Dr. Carter did. We know he was an intellectual and helped to move DPS towards African-centered education. And it's interesting as we grapple with and see all the changes occurring in Detroit Public Schools and the destruction of Detroit Public Schools. What happened to African-centered education? People like Dahia Shabaka, Mama Catherine Blackwell, Baba Norman McCrae, Baba Mzee Nabawi, Baba Malik Yakini, Mama Tahira, and so many, many others were committed. Brother Arthur Reese, Dr. Carolyn Reese, that were committed to ensuring and developing a curriculum and an education that was going to ensure that the African child was engendered with a true sense of history, a corrected sense of history, and a strong sense of self. And all of this has been dismantled. Even as you hear people advocating for it, supposedly, and talking about about education in Detroit, you don't even hear the words of African-centered education roll off of the lips of people's mouths. So again, young people, where are you? We ask you to step up. We know the first African-centered institutions in Detroit were formed by people that were young then that wanted to have an alternative type of education for their children. And that was done under the auspices of Mama Imani Humphrey, Mama Anna Moy Hill, Mama Razia Curtis, and so many others. Families came together under Umoja Abagunde, I hope I'm saying her name right, who was a collection of families that came together, and they created the first African-centered school in Detroit post the 1960s, which was called the Alexander Cromwell Learning Center, which ultimately grew into Aisha Shule. We look around now where the African-centered schools, Aisha Shule is gone. Insuroma Institute is gone. Timbuktu is still there, and it needs our support. Young people, we need you to step up. April 28th, 1993, and this has to be an error, I'm sure this is 1893, Reverend Charles Hill was born. He served with the distinction as the pastor of the Hartford Avenue Baptist Church from 1920 to 1969. He also served as the president of the Detroit chapter of the NAACP from 1944 to 1947. And we know Hartford Avenue Baptist Church is a very prominent church in Detroit. Ultimately, I think that Dr. Charles Adams succeeded Reverend Hill, and his son, I think his name is Christian Adams, I can't remember his exact name, succeeded his father as well. But this was one of the most powerful churches in Detroit, and it's important to know. Charles Hill, and I think it was Reverend Bradby, I may not have the name correct, but there were two very prominent churches in Detroit. And back in the day, particularly when blacks were going into the plants, this was the place where we really made our money. Henry Ford had the patron system, and if you wanted to get in the plant, you had to go through the minister of your church. And Charles Hill was one of the most influential ministers. I want to stop right quick. We have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the Get Up, Stand Up show. This is the Black in the Day, the 313 segment. Could you tell us your name and offer us a quick comment, please?
Good evening, my glorious brothers and sisters. This is Chago.
How you doing, Chago? Can you speak up a little? Okay, Chago, 1 second. Can we get engineer? I can't hear the phone. Are you there, Chago?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, now go ahead. You say you were employed with Edison at the time?
Yes, but I was unfortunately young and confused about my blackness and the concern about losing jobs. You know, several black employees were discharged because of their involvement with that lawsuit, and it wasn't until I joined the Shrine that I kind of really got my activism level maximized.
So
But,
what?
I was invited to some of the meetings. I gave donations to the cause at the time, but I wasn't aware and I wasn't employed at Detroit Edison at that time.
So those employers, I'm sorry, those employees that were discharged after the lawsuit was adjudicated, did they get their jobs back?
Now, I'm not sure because by that time I had, matter of fact, Edison fired me because of my activism with the Shrine of the Black Madonna. I wound up being discharged.
So
I wasn't there even to know, find out if they got me hired or what, you know.
So what year did you join the Shrine, if you don't mind my asking?
In 1974.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you had been a member that long.
Oh, yeah.
You know about the activities going on this weekend. There's the 50th anniversary of the unveiling of the mural of the Madonna in trial. And I'm really sorry that I didn't bring the information with me, because there's 3 days of activities. I think Friday night there's something happening at the Charles Wright Museum. And I did see, I see you, Sister Naka, if you could really quickly flash on the screen a quick blurb about what's going to be happening this weekend, because it's a very monumental event. Jaramogi Mentally Kamathi talked about how there has been just this growing interest about what's happening with this celebration this weekend in church in the sermon yesterday. Also, there has been ongoing discussion about how impactful it was that at that time, in 1967, this mural of the Shrine of the Black Madonna was unveiled and what it meant. And it's important to note, I forgot the brother's name. First name, you might know it, Chago, if you're still on the line. I know his last name is Dowdell, was the one commissioned to do it. And I understand that Ed Vaughn Walimu was the one that commissioned him to do it. And I actually had the opportunity to see pictures of the sister that was the model for that.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is a Black Tea Gala Friday. Is that at Shrine 1 at 7625 Linwood in Hogarth? I'm asking one of the Facebook viewers. So did you have any closing comments, Chago? And I appreciate you. I know you'd be out there listening. I want to talk to you because I could really use your support if you're available. And I'll reach out to you so we can have some future conversations about that.
Be glad to.
Okay.
Also, the big thing, we got to work on getting that www out of your vocabulary.
Okay, Chago, I know every time I say it, I think about you. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna drop it. If I haven't dropped it by next week, make sure you make a special effort to let me know. I see you, Aneka. Don't put anything else up yet. I want to read what's on the phone, okay? Any closing comments, Chago?
I know. Are you doing a great job, my brother?
All right, thanks a lot, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
So there's the tea, the gala tea is Friday at the Shrine of the Black Madonna. I'm assuming it's in the evening. You're going, okay, it's Glanton Dowdell. I'm trying to read this as you posted it, Aneka, and I understand there's a symposium Saturday, and that's at the Marriott Hotel. And Aneka, if you could do this, give me a contact number that you can put on the screen that I can give to people to call for more information, or you can call 313-871-9083 for more information about the Shrine of the Black Madonna weekend of celebration surrounding the unveiling of the Madonna and Child, which occurs in 1969. April 25th in 1967, Charles Diggs Sr., former state legislature, mortician, and businessman, made his transition at the age of 73 years of age. In 1989, on April 25th, Kenneth Cockrell, radical, socialist, charismatic black attorney Kenneth Cockrell Sr. made his transition. He was also a former city council member. He made his transition at the age of 50 in 1989 on April 25th. Many people also thought that Kenneth Cockrell was going to be the mayor to succeed Coleman Alexander Young. Unfortunately, he passed away before he was able to do that. He's most noted for defending quite a few very high-profile cases. One of the most popular cases, the most important cases that he defended was the case with Hayward Brown. And this was a result of the Brown Boy Bethune instance, which resulted from a shootout, a conflict with the police where Boyd and Bethune were killed as the police pursued them. Hayward Brown was the only survivor of that particular incident, and of course Kenneth Cockrell got him exonerated. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Kenneth Cockrell acted as the prosecutor in a mock trial of the police officers that were responsible for killing the brothers in the Algier motel incident. And I have another message. Everyone is invited to the Shrine of the Black Madonna at 10:45 a.m. Sunday, April the 30th. And that's the church service. It's going to be people from all over the country, from all of the shrines around the country and other places coming to celebrate. We urge you to be in the house. Come out with us and help celebrate. Who knows, you might get filled with the African Holy Ghost. Just to borrow some words from our esteemed now ancestor, Nana Kwame Atta. April 27th in the year 2000, William Beckham, Bill Beckham Jr., made his transition at 59 years old. Mr. Beckham served as the deputy mayor to Coleman Alexander Young, as a treasury official in the Carter administration, and as the CEO of the Skillman Foundation and the president of one of the presidents of New Detroit. Also, 2008, on April 27th, former Miller and Pershing High School coach Will Robinson made his transition. Mr. Robinson was noted for his coaching skills and for breaking the color barrier as the first African-American basketball coach at Illinois State University. Will Robinson was also known for having known as a talent scout for the Detroit Pistons and the Lions. April 28th in 1890, William Lambert made his transition to the ancestral realm at 71. Lambert was a tailor, an abolitionist, a member of the African American Mystery Systems. And if I didn't say it before, now I know I've said it before, the African American Mystery Systems was a black faction of abolitionists who did not trust the white abolitionists. So they worked with the white abolitionists, but they had a secret society of brothers who were armed, who had a whole nother level of commitment to getting black people to freedom. To be in the African American history system, you had to, the initiation, according to research I've done, is you had to go by yourself, leave Detroit, go down south, and get an African person out of enslavement and bring them to freedom. They believed in using arms, and they believed that white people couldn't be a part of this level of their organization. Mr. Lambert was also the secretary of the first state conventions of African Americans in 1843. And another thing that people need to know, from the 1830s to the 1850s, there was a movement called the Negro Convention movement. And these were free blacks that were advocating for better access and rights for themselves, but they also advocated for the abolitionists of slavery. They also advocated for immigration. They sat and discussed, debated the viability of how practical it would be for black people to leave the United States, instead of Ruther Blackburn in 1833 and Robert Cromwell in 1847, all three of which were captured Africans. By the way, the sermon this Sunday at Shrine 1 will be delivered by Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony. This is going to be an exciting time, because people like Wendell Anthony and Joanne Watson and others, and they were young people at this time. They were in their teens and 20s. So now we doing a whole turnaround 50 years later. So I urge you to come out. And that's at 7625 Linwood and Hogarth, Sunday at 10:45. Be there. Don't be square. Speaking of Joanne Watson, and I just want to stop and also mention another brother that made his transition, and that was Brother Diabate Blackman, who had also been a member of the Shrine for over 40 years. He was the husband of Mary Blackman's sister Rashida, Cardinal Rashida. He had a very spirit-filled, homegoing, people came out, city officials. Joanne Watson was there, Reverend Wendell Anthony was there. He knew so many people. This brother was very committed to our struggle, very active in the Shrine of Black Madonna for over 40 years. Most people that knew him beyond the Shrine knew him through the work he did as a mentor and educator, as a swimming instructor, and as an administrator, as part of Detroit Parks and Recreation. I understand for several years he ran the River Rouge swimming pool and Parks and Recreation site. So I just wanted to kind of plug that in. April 29th, 2003, Mama Joanne Watson was elected to the Detroit City Council in a special election to replace the late Brenda Scott, who passed away on September the 2nd in 2002. Councilwoman, Queen Mother Joanne Watson defeated former City Council President Gil Hill in a runoff election. Mama Joanne Watson graduated from Central High School, and she also graduated with a degree in journalism from the University of Michigan. She is a lifelong community activist and ordained minister, and we know her. She broadcasts right from this very seat that I'm sitting. We know her as Mama, Queen Mother. Wake up, Detroit. She not only talks it, but she walks it, because she's been about the business of waking our people up and keeping us woke for a very long time. And I only hope that I can rise to the height of the commitment of sisters like Joanne Watson and numerous others that I've mentioned in this broadcast and in previous broadcasts as well. On April the 30th in 2003, and this is, I almost don't want to bring this up, but I want to commemorate the spirit of the sister. Sister Tamara Green and her boyfriend were gunned down by gunmen as they sat in their car on the city's west side. And we know this is the sister that was the center of all the controversy about this alleged party that was supposed to have happened at the Manugian Mansion. And it's interesting because it has never been proven to have had happened. But as recent as 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in the barbershop. I'm not going to even say the barbershop. I guess I could give Fadeaway Barbershop, which is in Highland Park, a little play here. But we were sitting there talking about this very incident. And it to this day has not been proven. There's a lot of controversy around the sister losing her life and how she, in my opinion, was played and misportrayed in the media. That's why I'm not even going to the other name that they used to talk about her. So those are the important dates and events. We got about 8 minutes left. And I want to get back to this idea of the war on African people. Yes, it's going on. It's live and in full color. Last week when I left out of here, matter of fact, I think I may have shortchanged you all by a couple of minutes. And I want to give a shout out to Baba Abiomi Allen. We appreciate you tuning in. Call in if you like. I was just infuriated by the incident of the sisters at Rouge Park fighting. People standing around watching it for entertainment. Everybody trying to get a video. Men regulating that people couldn't jump in rather than somebody operating from the place of a human being and acknowledging the humanity of another person and stopping them from committing out the atrocities that they were committing to each other. Then the brothers in Greektown, who, to my knowledge, and I'm not the most informed person, we still don't know why they jumped on those two men. And I've heard some talk here and there, maybe on some talk shows or whatever. Somebody even called into a national talk show saying that these brothers were given $500,000 bonds for what they did. And people felt like it was a racist act to give them these high bonds. We got a short amount of time. What do you think about that? What should be the punishment? Why would, when I was a street guy, and people may find it hard to believe, I think we would have better sense than to just be blatantly out like that. And today, 40 years later, there's cameras all over the place. Based on reliable sources that I know, they say Dan Gilbert has all of downtown very much under surveillance, and that they could hone in. They have it so tight down there. If you pull out your phone, they can literally zoom into your phone and look at the screen of your phone. So why would you be out in Greektown beating somebody down, profiling and styling like it's something fashionable about it? Anyway, the historical oppression, of course, I'm not going to have a chance to finish that. We know under the auspices of the Trump presidency, they're doing all kind of stuff to ensure that the power is retained in their hands. I was looking at a show on MSNBC, and it was brought to part of the show, it came out that in New Orleans, they decided that they would take down 4 historical exhibits commemorating the Civil War and the Confederacy. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the Get Up Stand Up Show. This is Black in the Day in the 313. Could you tell us your name and offer a quick comment, please?
Good evening, Dr.
The Honorable Mama Akila. How are you?
I'm doing well.
It's good to hear your voice. Unfortunately, we can't hear you real good right now, but just come on with it.
Okay, you're talking about ancestors.
Yes.
In the month of April, and I just wanted to add Queen Robinson to that list.
Okay.
April 14th, and I want to recognize her, my dear sister.
Speak up, just
Also,
speak.
remind me that Dr. King was vaccinated in April, and that cousin, Black Panther, was also vaccinated.
You can. Can you, Akila? Akila, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
Okay, I just wanted to recognize my sister, Queen Robinson.
Yep, I heard that. And thank you
Right,
for.
and the minister reminded me also that Dr. King was vaccinated in April,
Yes?
So I just wanted to include that tonight.
Okay, I appreciate it. And of course, you may not know it, but I do remember your sister very well. She was a very nice person, and she's a part of my ongoing commemoration of the ancestors through my personal pouring of libations, because for me, we're family, and we always will be. So I appreciate you calling in. I think I may have talked about the assassination of Dr. King. It's important for us as African people that we incorporate the veneration of our ancestors as a part of our life, because spirit is much more real than material. And if we know and understand, even those of us that may not understand, in the creation story in the Bible, it was the spirit that animated the first living being. It was the spirit of God that made that entity come alive. And you cannot destroy spirit. So we know that energy is still accessible to us. Thank you for calling in.
You're welcome.
Okay, we down to about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. And I always get to the last part because I'm trying to just kind of contextualize this war. And I really wanted to talk about the concept of institutional racism. A lot of times we hear about it. And our struggle, this historical struggle that we've been involved in, has taken on a lot of phases and a lot of factions. You have people, for me it comes down to the concept of the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro was so much more concerned about the master, even oftentimes more concerned about the master than himself. The house Negro had a totally different orientation, and in fact he wanted to separate. And I say this, as I've gotten older and been involved in the struggle, I see the need for all of these particular responses. But if we're going to try to operate within the system, we have to understand how power and institutions work. So as we go about the process of getting elected into office and trying to exercise the electoral process, we have to understand, A, that these are not our institutions. Or let me back up, A, that this system was never intended for us to be participants. We were brought here to do the work to ensure that white people had a great life and to ensure that they were kept into power. There was never a plan for us to be a part of this system. So I think we get confused when we think that we work. Now for those of us that feel like we need to work the system, we have to understand how power works. And contrary to popular belief, it's often said that power resides in land. Land is the basis of power. And I can see or assert that power rests in institutions. Because you can have power and not have the institutions that you need, and your land can be taken away. And we down to about 1 minute. I'll try to start here next week with a little more time, because either we're going to build our own institutions, or we're going to try to make the institutions of the oppressor work for us. And we have a wealth of evidence that shows the limitations of that. When African people came out of enslavement during Reconstruction, we eased our way into their institutions of power. We became elected officials. We sat on city councils. We became sheriffs. We got access within their institutions. But there was pushback. So we have to build our own institutions, or we have to know and understand the limitations of their institutions and make their institutions work to the maximum ability that they possibly can to exert for us what we need them to. In the Shrine of the Black Madonna, we had a philosophy that we try to gain as much as we can from the system to support our struggle for independence and for nation building. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We thank you for viewing, for watching. We urge you to continue to watch. We thank Brother R.J. Watkins and Watkins Broadcasting for this opportunity. I want to say asante sana to Malik Shabazz, and for the many viewers, thank you for this opportunity. And we say, get up, stand up, up you mighty race, and accomplish what you will.
watching W33BY, Detroit, Highland Park, Michigan.